Hi, everybody. Well, we had some technical difficulties. Welcome to Wadeh Wednesday, the Community for International Arab. My name is Tiffany Totah. I'm a marriage and family therapist, and today we are going to talk about a very emotional topic around the father wound. Oh, Mira, okay, there you are. All right. But I love to see where people are coming in from. I think we've got Hassan Haddad from Iraq. Welcome. I love that. I'm coming to you live from Los Angeles, California. Mira, as always, where are you holding us from?
I'm joining from Egypt.
I love it. Oh, I love that. We always get that one person, you sound angry.
Yeah.
Let me explain something to you. When a woman speaks with clarity and passion, let me say that again. When a woman speaks with clarity, passion, expertise, and knowledge, more often than not, I will get comments, why are you so angry? Now, is that a projection? Are you uncomfortable with a woman in her certainty and in her knowledge? Does it make you feel uncomfortable? So that may be your own father wound. What is going on within you that a woman who speaks with confidence is being seen as angry? So that comment was perfect, and I thank you for projecting your own feelings onto me, because this is the exact reason why I want us to address the father wound, because my sense is you probably do that in your own relationships. Someone's sharing with you something and you project onto them this emotion without you taking a minute to think about, why am I saying that? What is coming up for me? And I can let every single one of you guys know, as a Middle Eastern woman, we've gone through so much, and I'm not going to diminish my knowledge or my power for anyone. So if you're going to try and bring me down or say nasty things to me, that's why Mira's here. We delete you automatically. Because this is not the platform. We all need to come together, okay? Come together as a community to heal. That's men, women, however you identify. It doesn't matter to me. This is how we come together, not through haki fadi and negativity or trying to put somebody down. So that's my khalto behdele for the beginning of the I told Mira I'm not going to do any behdeles today, but I guess I have to, because already the live didn't even start. Balashna. Okay. All right, Mira, how's that?
Yeah,
Now,
I love that. And what doesn't apply, let it fly.
yeah, I always say yes,
As
thank
you
you.
always say.
As I
Yeah.
always say, yeah. Just hop off the platform, okay? This is not your community. All right, where are people coming in from? Let's see, whoever's joining, where are we coming in from? We've got Egypt, we've got California, we have Iraq. We usually have people from the UAE. Amsterdam, oh, that's a new one. I don't think we get too many Europeans. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Iraq is in the house, I love that. All right. New York, yes, New York. Dubai, yes, I love when Central New York, I love that. Cool. Sudan, welcome, welcome. Our Sudanese brothers and sisters, our thoughts are always with you. Um, El Maghrib, okay. Is that how you say it? Did I say that right? My Arabic is very Palestinian American 1950s choppy. Egypt. All right. All right, let's get started because we have so much to cover. Um, can you do me a favor and block Hovan, please?
Of
Can you
course.
block Hovan?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, block him completely or block them completely. Okay. All right, let's get started. So I asked you to think about, what is your relationship? What comes up for you when I say father? And just notice your body. Notice if you get nervous, maybe you have positive feelings, whatever it is, think about that. Now we know within our Middle Eastern culture, the father often holds a central role in the family. And that's what I talked about in on City Sunday. You could see part 1 and refer to that video. Malik, let's see. Fear and anxiety. Have to hurry up and change clothes, clean up. Yes, that is jetty. You gotta when the dad wants something, or even if the mom wants something, it's jump. How high? Right? Hassan, safety and source of strength and energy. I love that you had that experience with your father. That means you may not, this live may not apply to you because when there's a sense of source and strength, there may not be a wound there. It's usually when we feel fear, anxiety, lack of safety, abandonment, rejection. And so when we talk about sons with the father wound, they may feel this pressure to live up to their father's expectation regarding success, family, responsibility, and masculinity. And so either usually the son may be overly compliant, meaning working hard and doing all the right things, or maybe rebellious and go against that. Okay? So these are just some things for you guys to consider. We talked already about the generational trauma. So let's see. Very good. I'm so glad that's your experience, Hassan. But today we are going to talk about those that did not have that experience of a father who was supportive, loving, and kind. Yes. Passiveness and guilt. Very good. Rooms K6. Yes. Okay. Now, we've talked about all the abuse. Okay. Now, we left off last City Sunday where we talked about fathers withholding money to control you and the empty promises. It's sort of like the carrot and the stick to keep you manipulated, to keep them in their control, whether it's taking over the business, promises to support you in school, maybe they offer to help buy you a home, fill in the blank, but they use money as a way to, if they had money and resources, to keep you in their control. If they didn't have money, they may project onto you this guilt that you need to financially support them, and they may use that guilt to continually keep you in their control using finances. Now, the reason why I did this particular live is because unless we can address these earlier wounds, many times we don't have this awareness of how it impacts our adult life. Now, whenever I always, because, you know, as a culture, we get very defensive, and I'm hoping there's a whole video on that. I am here to say we honor, it's not to honor our parents. By saying these things, each one of us has a story. Each person may have a different story or a different experience. This isn't to disrespect or dishonor our fathers, okay? But how many of you experienced a negative or felt denial or shame around your dad? How many of you felt like you did not like this man? Or maybe you saw the harm he inflicted upon your mother. Yes, Miss Malik, see, we talk about, thank you for your courage to even share that. Shame even still, because whose shame are you carrying? And many times we carry our parents' shame for whatever trauma they endured. You may be carrying that shame. And how are you carrying that shame in your personal life? So that may mean you get involved with individuals who use you or abuse you or harm you or take advantage of you. Maybe you're the people pleaser. Anybody else want to share how this impacts the father wound, your feelings towards your father? Yeah, Hassan, I think you may be right that the more educated the parent, but that's not necessarily true in my experience. Yes, education may have a lot to do with it, It's the emotional intelligence that has even more to do with it. Because I've met very educated, I call them educated fools. They have the degrees, but their emotional intelligence, my 17-year-old has more emotional intelligence in her pinky than most of those adults. So I don't mean to say that so harshly, but as a culture, I know we value education, but education does not necessarily mean emotional intelligence. Let's go to the common symptoms of the father wound. That's where we left off. Trust issues. So if any of you struggle with trust issues, you have difficulty forming relationships or unsatisfied relationships. Maybe you tend to isolate or be alone. You may not trust people in authority. So if you are in a work environment, ask yourself, do I not trust the leaders of that organization? So you may have difficulties in your workplace. You're not trusting of them, and you may be indirectly having a dissatisfying relationship with your manager, which may impact your employment. And it could be because you don't trust. If you meet someone, whether it's a friend or somebody, a romantic partner, and they're kind and loving and they see you and they want to spend time with you, your nervous system, because of this father wound, may not trust what they are presenting you with. So you need to collect evidence. Another big one of the father wound. If you have low self-worth and you are seeking constant validation, if you were treated poorly by your father, you may find yourself accepting poor treatment from others. Now, you can suffer from perfectionism, and we know that as a culture, many of us struggle with perfectionism, which I talk about a lot. You could be the perfect daughter or the perfect son, hoping to stay under the radar. Like, the more perfect I could be, the less I can receive any of their comments or their criticisms, and you're shielding yourself the more perfect you are. But as an adult, this leads to burnout. It leads to this perfectionism may affect your romantic partnerships, because no matter what your partner does, it's never good enough because he or she are not doing things perfectly to the way you want them to do it. And then it keeps that disconnect. And then for those of you that keep seeking validation from your supervisors, from your coworkers, from your friends, from anybody that will listen, you have to remember you are trying to put a salve on that father wound or that mother wound. We're hoping you will get validation. But the reality is, until you heal that wound, there is not enough validation that anyone or anything can help you with that. So people can validate you every day, all day long. However, if you don't heal that wound, it's like this bottomless pit, and the people around you may want to isolate. Maybe you're emotionally too much for them. Maybe you're too demanding, and then they reject you or abandon you, and then it recreates that, it validates that wound within you. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that?
I feel like I relate the most to one sentence, and it's still like in my mind, when you said that you always seek perfectionism, or you always try to do your best, and it's never enough.
No.
Yeah.
It's never enough, because if your father also received judgment and criticism, it was never good enough for him. So that's why for the next generation, I'm saying you want to heal that within you, so you're not passing that on to your son or daughter. The other piece that I think we do as a Middle Eastern community, and this is one of the strengths and the beauty of our culture, is we overgive, hospitable. We give, the shirt off our back to people. We people please, and sometimes to people who do not deserve this goodness. But because of the father wound, you may be pouring all your energy into someone that doesn't deserve your kindness and your love and your compassion. And so how do you discern? How do you think through to go, okay, I'm giving, but am I receiving anything from this person? Now, if you're used to a father or a mother where you're the giver, 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 your nervous system is already acclimated to, I'm used to not receiving anything. But that becomes very problematic for many reasons. Now, it's an attachment trauma. So the father wound is not a clinical diagnosis. It's an attachment trauma. So mental health issues such as anxiety, depression, substance use, that's what, if we don't heal this wound, that's what it can create. You wonder why anxiety is so high within our culture. Because we don't have permission to talk about our fathers or our mothers because we feel shame and guilt and, oh, we're dishonoring them. Both can be true. We can recognize that they were providers and nurturers, yet emotionally they may not have been giving you what you needed. Both can be true. So how do you in your mind reconcile that by me addressing what you didn't receive and take accountability and responsibility to heal that within you? You may even find better relationships with your parents. Do we have any questions so far on the father wound? I know a lot of people are joining the live. Thank you. Welcome. Really good to see everyone here. I want this to be as meaningful to the folks that are joining as possible. I'm talking about the father wound, and I know that could be heavy. And we were talking about some of the symptoms and the overgiving, the overfunctioning. How many of you do the prove it energy, where you have to prove to the people in your life, prove to your father you are worthy by doing more than what was expected? And you work so hard to the point where it's burnout, which I talk about on multiple videos. So asking yourself, are you the type of person that's trying to prove to your father that you are worthy? I know that was me. I spent a good portion, 20s to 30s, even though I was on my healing journey, trying to prove to my father, look at me, Dad, I'm successful, look at what I'm doing. And all I got was, and I talked to my father, even till this day, but he would say, oh, inti akbira ahmara. Isn't that terrible?
Yeah.
Did I say that right in Arabic? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what he would say. And even though I had enough healing within me to go, Baba, what? Are you serious? This is what you're going to tell me after 2 master's degrees? I'm trying to prove to you my success and this and that. And then you tell me I'm nothing without you. And then you tell me things, ikbira ahmara, right? And I'm fine with it. Please, you guys, I know you feel my pain. My pain is long gone. Now he says types of things. Now he's older. He's like 84. He says these things and niche because I've healed within myself. And when I have interactions with other people, and if there's even a slight put me down, just like on this live, if there's a slight put me down, you got to go. Why? Because I don't want the crumbs anymore. I don't want anyone bringing me down. And my hope is I could serve as a model, if you're not doing this, to understand you can still talk to your father. And that's abusive. That would be considered verbal abuse. But in our culture, we minimize everything. That I could still, because I've healed within myself, I can just look at him and see his own pain. Am I excusing the terrible behavior? Of course not. However, I am able to sit in space because his words do not affect me at all. They could be annoying, but they don't affect me because I feel at peace within myself. But that took me what are we talking? 30 years of really working on myself and healing. Because if you guys think healing the father wound is like a 3-minute TikTok quick fix, no, because it is embedded within every fiber and every aspect of who you are if you don't pay attention to it. A big one that I see with the father wound is struggling with what we call imposter syndrome, right? It's where you doubt your abilities despite your achievements. How many of you doubt your abilities even though you're successful How many of you, if we can get a like thumbs up or right, no matter how capable you are, you still see, in spite of all your achievement, thank you, Fano. Yeah, that you don't see yourself because we never receive that affirmation. I think I have a whole video on Arab parents that nobody very often we didn't hear. You did a great job, or look at the amount of effort you put through. It was just expected. Let's see, Trevor. Hi, Trevor. Let's see. Yeah, you can develop all kinds of things, right? As a result of that. Now, a huge one I see in our culture with the father wound is anger and rage. So if you're depressed, if you are depressed, you may want to look at the underlying grief or the anger you may be struggling with. And I've noticed within our culture, at least in the community that I grew up in, anger is an acceptable emotion, right? The yelling, the siyah, like we're okay with that. But we may not be okay with the sadness and the grief. And so underneath the anger that you may be feeling is this grief that was shunned, minimized, invalidated. So you may have issues with authority figures by being defiant and being rebellious because you're not managing the grief within you. So then it comes out in very difficult ways. You may be somebody very difficult to work with. You may be not a good team player because you don't trust anybody. You're angry all the time. If somebody does one little wrong thing, and then you're already jumping down their throat and criticizing them and judging them, that may come from this father wound because that's what your father may have modeled for you. You may also have difficulty handling feedback or constructive criticism. So if somebody says something to you, to say, hey, you hurt me, this is what you did, and you may immediately flare up in rage, well, that may come from, again, this father wound where you may have had deep-seated feelings of rejection. If your father died when you were really young, even though it wasn't your dad's fault, like he passed away, however, you may have internalized it as a rejection or an abandonment. And this is where any type of feedback people give you, you may flare because of that. Okay.
May I stop you for a second? We have a question.
Yeah.
So Miss Malik said, how do we heal the wound without disrespecting the family?
That's a really good question. I want any, because I'm much older than many of you on this, according to the analytics. I spent a lifetime disrespecting my father and spent my early 20s fighting, rebelling, being so angry because no matter what I did, and it was painful, but I didn't know how to manage that pain. I can tell you, I don't know what you mean by disrespect. I can tell you that if you try and fight him or try and get him to see you or validate you or recognize your pain, that's where the disrespect, you disrespecting him, may come in from, because it's a losing battle unless he has some emotional intelligence, some ability to be curious and self-reflect on how his behavior impacted the family, especially you, or his interactions with your mother. Yeah. So Miss Malik, if he gets very angry, I say abort mission. When you trying to be seen by someone that can't even see himself, don't do what I did. Don't live your entire 20s and 30s trying to prove something to someone that it's a losing battle. So that's why I'm doing this live, for you to say, okay, how can I sit in space with him and heal that grief that he will never be the father that you need him to be, the protector, the person that offers kind words, the hugs, the love. he may be so distant and you are trying to bring him closer, and you're gonna, and you may try and find that in one disastrous relationship after another, romantic partnership. So don't spend your lifetime doing that. Recognize it may be a surface relationship. So with my father, he's older, right? So he just talks about his ailments and his health. Okay, yeah, Baba. Okay, okay, are you okay? Do you need anything? Right? And and then when he asked me, "How are you?" Oh no, never answer that question. Probably not a good idea, because then that may be a setup that they rope you in to bring you down. Because if I say, "Oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing these lives for the Community for International Arab," ليش انت شو يعني ليش انت
Yeah.
بتسوي هيك? So I'm like, no, no, no. If he asks me how I am, no, Baba. What's more important is how are you? And then you keep it moving. We're not like Western cultures where we cut off. They literally cut off their families and they never speak to them again. For asking an Arab kid or an Arab adult kid to cut off their parent is terrible. We don't do that. So how do we live within this construct? And I say to try and get them to see you. No, don't do that. Let's see. Trevor, you said makes me feel guilty. Which part makes you feel guilty? Like being surfacey? Oh, wait. CC. Oh, yeah, you've been on here before. Hi. Good to see you. GBSS. Yes. What did I missed his comment or their comment. I don't know if they're
Father poverty mindset focus on making money is at the expense of doing meaningful, purposeful work.
that's right. And let me tell you something. My father comes of me. He was very impoverished growing up, but yet he still has this poverty mindset. So money does not equate mindset. So if your father, I'm not sure how it manifests for your dad, but this, he, I'm not sure if you can give me a little bit more information on that, because I've seen very wealthy men with a poverty mindset.
Yeah.
Yes, so I can tell you, I can speak from my experience. My father always focused on money. That was his part because of his own wounds growing up, very impoverished. And so he worked 60, 70, 80 hours a week. If anything, if I wanted to pursue teaching or something meaningful, he literally shut that down. In fact, I want to say he probably shut that down for myself and all my siblings. So this is what my thoughts on that is that's his wound. It doesn't have to be your wound. If you want to pursue meaningful and purposeful work, you can make money from that, depending on what it is. But because they have this poverty mindset, they only have a one view of how you can make money, and that's not true. So my thought is, do not get caught up in his wound, because you may want to pursue what he wants you to pursue to again heal that poverty within him. And that's again, like I said earlier, that's something you can never get through.
Also, Rodok said, I feel like I grew up with a single mom, even though my dad was always there, but he was workaholic.
Yes, thank you. I could relate to that too. And that's a form of rejection and abandonment. And how present was he even when he was around? And then you had to deal with your mother wound of your mother's overwhelm, not having a partner to be able to support her. And what was the impact on you then? I wanted to go back to, I think, C Chai BS 44, but I get no support. That's right. You're not going to get support if you're going to pursue anything outside of what he expects from you. More often than not, you won't get support until you are really successful in what you're doing. And then maybe you'll get a little bit of support. Yeah, I know it's hard, but I'm hoping you can find support here. I'm letting you know I get it. And I'm sure there's many people who are on this live that get it. You are not alone. So my hope is that this community will offer you support, that if you feel aligned in this meaningful, purposeful work for you, for your being, for your heart, we support you in that. If you're not hurting anyone, if you're just aligning with your own values and your own authenticity of who you are, there's nothing wrong with that. And our families, they will not support, but they also, just from my own experience and from many others, that they're still going to be around. They're not going to reject you. I mean, they may reject you, but they're not going to excommunicate you. They may give you a lot of nonsense and haki, but they're not going to be like, son, forget it. You're out of the house, or we don't want to see you ever again. In some families that might happen, but if you're pursuing meaningful work and they don't want you around, I wish I could tell you that it's easy, but it's not. And there may be periods of estrangement that you may have from your family. But my general experiences, they come around 10, 15, 20 years later, 5 years, 3 years. But how do you create your own support system around that? Now, if we think about your father again, okay, we're coming close on finishing up here. Was your father respected by the community? Was he feared? Was he a community leader? Was your father an embarrassment to the community? And that goes to the guilt and the shame many of you may be feeling around your dad, is if he wasn't respected, are you carrying that in you? Does that resonate? Do we have any? Yeah. So think about your father. Maybe we can talk about let's talk about some dad. Was your dad respected? Was he feared? Let me see. Somebody said something I like. Miss Mal, my dad makes jokes about it, about doing social work at family. Oh, about you doing, Miss Mal, are you a therapist? You're in the field? And he makes jokes about it at family gatherings? Yeah. My dad still tells people, that's what he says. So if my dad makes jokes, hey, look what she does. Again, they make jokes because they make jokes of things they don't understand. But try not to internalize that, because he's trying to shame you, condemn the family, because you didn't pursue doctora or engineer or whatever they want you to do. So of course they're going to make jokes because bifhamush. And they won't. All right. I can go on and on and on. Okay. Yes, Trevor, my material needs were met, but emotional needs were neglected and invalidated. Yes, Trevor. And that's why I want everyone who is on this live it's your responsibility and accountability to fill those emotional needs yourself. And again, it takes a lot of work and a lot of time. I wish there was something I could say about that. Yeah, of course, all of our parents, many of them took care of our needs. But emotionally, profoundly stunted. And this generational trauma keeps continuing. So I'm hoping the newer generation with this mental health, we're able to talk about it, it's becoming better, that we don't do that to the next generation of children. All right, so let's talk about healing. Let's talk about healing. First, we need to challenge the cultural narrative, as I'm doing right now, by encouraging more emotional awareness and breaking cycles of emotional suppression. Okay, so we need to change this cultural narrative that al-Arab ma fi عندهم mental health. هيك إحنا, we our parents, we must serve them at all costs. We need to change these cultural narratives. You may benefit from moving away from blame and resentment. So you are feeling, I get it, resentful, and you want to blame them for everything. Feel your feelings and recognize, move towards your own personal healing. Move through that resentment. Think about your role in that resentment. What are you still attached to? What reality are you not facing with these people? Because you can take accountability for that. And that's where you begin to heal. But when we have these attachments, one day they'll change, one day it'll be different. You are going to spend years of your life, as I did, waiting for something that never happened. Well, actually, I could say, now there's more healing, a little bit, tiny bit, because we can have more healthier interactions. My hope for the younger generation, and I see this especially with fathers, young fathers, and men in our culture today. I applaud you for redefining masculinity and fatherhood. I see so many videos of young Arab fathers who are embracing their children's emotional expression, seeing it as a strength, affirming their children, helping their wives, supporting the women in their life in such loving and beautiful ways. And for that, I get chills because I have hope that the next generation, we just get better and better and better. So to the young fathers out there who are breaking those cycles and redefining masculinity, thank you. I don't think we honor those men enough for breaking these generational cycles. We need to identify the challenge of the limiting beliefs developed from the father wound. So if you have, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, I'm a failure. What would be some other limiting beliefs? I'm a failure, I'm not good enough, I'm unlovable. What would be
worthy?
I'm not worthy. Reframe these beliefs. And sometimes you need to work with a therapist to be able to do that. Or every time you have that come up, that's where you have awareness, self-reflect, and understand yourself. The more you understand yourself, like, oh, I got triggered. Oh, somebody criticized me and I'm feeling all inflamed. Oh, I have a sweetie who's so kind and loving to me and I want to run for the hills. Yeah, it may be these limiting beliefs that you have because of your experience with your dad. I have a few more and then we're going to wrap up. The key thing that I think I see within our culture, we are not compassionate with ourselves. I have a video, we beat ourselves up so much. And this is where self-compassion is so key. Your response as an adult is not you as the adult. It's your younger self who wants to be nurtured and given to and protected. So when you have an emotional reaction, don't think of yourself as the 24, 25, 30, 40, 45-year-old. See yourself as when that father wound first came into your life. And it may be as young as 5 or 6, or maybe dad passed away when you were 10. So assessing at what age, because your emotional response, if you didn't feel, is going to be based on that age. I think people really forget that. So if you have an emotional reaction and you beat yourself up, I should have did this, I should have been better, my perfect pictures, I need to be a perfect human. You say no. It's about honoring that little person who was wounded, and how does the adult you help move that pain? And that begins with self-compassion. The other key thing that I cannot emphasize enough is surrounding yourself with mentors and positive male role models. Now, I talk to my cousins a lot about this. When we look at all the men and you're talking, we're of a whole other generation, very traditional, extremely patriarchal. Children were seen and not heard. You had to do everything right when the people came over. Otherwise, you were hit and slapped and punished and shamed. The mothers did everything. The fathers worked, and everybody had to serve them. That was my generation, at least in my family experience. So we talk about, we didn't have any positive male role models. We didn't have el haniya min al abu. We didn't have that. So when we meet nice men or we meet nice people, it's foreign to us. It's strange. But just because something's strange to you doesn't mean it's not good for you. So think about the male role models. Find a teacher, find an uncle, find an older cousin, somebody that is breaking these generational traumas, and don't be afraid to lean in and talk to them about what you need to get that support. And you want to ensure that you want to provide your children with a loving, healthy, vulnerable, positive adult males. And if you're a single mother, find those family members that your children can turn to, or if you, and that anyway, that's, it's really important. And to help your child understand, they don't need to hate their child. You don't need to instill, like, tell the child they need to hate their dad or their dad. And I simply said to my daughter, you know, I don't tell her your dad loves you, because that's a very negative message. Because if that's what love is, I don't want her thinking, oh, your dad loves you and that's love. And then she goes out and meets somebody and she's going to be with somebody that's emotionally unavailable. I never say your dad loves you. What I do tell her is your father is profoundly limited. What you get from him, that's all you're going to get, Habibti. And I'm sorry that this is the choice that I made. And she always makes jokes like, oh, I have daddy issues. I said, okay, but how do we heal that? And that's by surrounding her with positive male figures. And also as a mother, being a stability for her to saying, you can move through this. And seek therapy as needed. I know it's hard to find culturally responsive therapy. That's why I do a series of workshops. Thank you, Mita, for launching them, where we talk about these things within our cultural context. And it's very important for you to address that. Otherwise, it may impact your physical health. And I think I'd say don't wait that long till you're so burnt out, so depressed, so anxious. Address it sooner than later and get the help that you need. And I hope this community may also offer some help. My hope is many of you will just go away today and start to think about, your interactions. Just create some awareness. It doesn't have to be anything too big. It's like, oh, I'm feeling this in my body. And your body has a wealth of information if you just pay attention to it. Okay? So let us honor our father wounds and have empathy for our fathers. This does not mean you put up with abuse, but it means breathing more deeply into understanding that we all have stories. They have a story, or in a story you may never know, because they won't talk about what they went through. And so hold on to that. They may be struggling, but you don't have to own that struggle. You don't have to own that wound. The only thing you can own is your own pain and your own wound. And that's why I always say it takes accountability and responsibility. Together, and this community, my hope is we can have the space to honor one another's wounds. So I wanted to thank everybody who shared, who was vulnerable. Thank you. Thank you for giving me this space to also share my story. And I thank you for sharing your story and the courage to even explore these things, because this is rare. You guys being on this live, sticking around, responding, that is rare in our culture. The stigma is still very, very high, but I truly believe together as a community, when we have spaces for each other to honor one another and to remind ourselves we are greater than our experiences that were meant to keep us down. We are greater than the experiences meant to keep us down. Remember that. You are worthy. You deserve the life, a full life. Create that for yourself one step at a time, and that starts with awareness. Sending all of you gratitude for joining today. May you find peace as you move forward in your day and evening and whatever it is you do. And join me Sunday for Sitti Sunday. We have a very special guest coming on who's going to talk about his mental health journey. And I think anybody struggling with mental health, his journey, his story may really resonate. So I appreciate all of you. Enjoy your day, and I'll see you next time.